Good afternoon. Today we are doing PO9. This time, instead of adding and subtracting those integers, we are multiplying and dividing integers and fractions. So we're still working with those positive and negatives, but this time it's with different operations, multiplying and dividing. So first thing we have to do is review how we multiply and divide. And then we need to think about what we do with our positives and negatives. So just like yesterday, I said, put it in the table. And there were people that were not putting in their binders what I'm putting on the board. Guys, I'm not putting it up on the board just for funsies, right? Like I said, I know how to do this. This is for your benefit. So things I put up on the board, you need to be filling in your books. So it's going to help you when you return back to it to be able to answer the question. So if we have a positive and we're going to multiply or divide by a positive, what will our answer be? Jude? Positive. It's going to be a positive answer. 3 times 4 is 12. They're all positives. What if it's a positive multiplied or divided by a negative? Adeza? It's a negative. It's going to be a negative. Well, what if it's a negative multiplied or divided by a positive? Henry? Still negative. Still negative. What if it's a negative multiplied or divided by a negative? Claire? Positive. It's going to be a positive. If they are like signs, positive, positive, negative, negative, your answer will always be positive. So if they are the same sign, positive, positive, or negative, negative, your answer will always be positive. If they are different signs, doesn't matter which one's first or which one's second, if they are different signs, your answer will be negative. Same signs, your answer is positive. Different signs, your answer is negative. So when we go to look at the problems that we're going to do, there are 2 things you have to do. First one is determine, is it your answer going to be positive or is your answer going to be negative? Then you do the math. Okay, we know our math facts, but we have to determine, is our answer positive or negative first? So let's look at this first one. I have a positive 8 and a negative 3. What's my answer going to be, positive or negative? Christian? Negative, because I have different signs, positive and negative. So that's the first thing I always look at. Am I going to put a negative sign on there? Now I'm going to do the math. 8 times 3 is 24. So I look at my next one. I have a negative and a negative. What will my answer be? Grayson? If I have a negative and a negative, what is the answer going to be? Positive. So I know it's going to be positive. I don't have to write the positive sign. Right? We know that if it's just an integer written, it is a positive. So I don't have to write a sign there. Then I do my math. Grayson, what is 4 times 5? 20. Okay, so always check your sign first. Is your answer going to be positive or is it going to be negative? Then do your math. So now we're going to look at our fractions. To multiply, if necessary, the first thing you do, just like with the adding and subtracting, we wanted to turn mixed numbers into improper fractions so we can multiply. Remember, we multiply straight across. What is the trick for dividing fractions? What do we have to remember, Damien? Yeah, we have to flip dividing to multiply. We have to flip the second fraction to its reciprocal. Then we multiply across.
Can we just cross multiply? Diagonally?
You could, yes. Yeah, that's not a problem. So let's look at, And then we have to remember positives and negatives. Same signs, your answer is positive. Different signs, I have a negative and I have a positive. What's my answer going to be if I have a positive times a a negative times a positive, Damien?
Negative.
It's going to be negative. So if I multiply across,
Please excuse the interruption. The boys' choir is taking place right now in the music room. Boys' choir.
I don't believe we have any sixth graders in boys choir. I didn't see any names on the list. So 10 times 3 is 30. 9 times 5 is 45. Whew. Negative 30 45ths. Spectacular answer. Am I done? Claire, what do I have to do? Simplify, simplify, simplify. What can I divide out of 30 and 45? Shh, Addie.
5.
I can divide a 5 out. 30 divided by 5 is 6. 45 divided by 5 is 9. And do not forget that it was a negative. Gabe? What can I do, Gabe? I can still divide more out. I can divide a 3 out. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Do not forget, it is still negative. Dude?
Couldn't you have just crossing this?
Yes. You could have simplified first. You could have said, oh, look, I can divide a 3 out and make that a 1. I can divide the 3 out of here and make that a 3. I can divide a 5 out and make that 1. I can divide the 5 out and make that 2. So 1 over 1 doesn't change it. And I get that negative 2/3. So yes, you can cross simplify first and then multiply. That works also. We get the same answer. It's what you're comfortable with. If you learned the cross simplifying last year and you get it, you love it, use it. If you say, oh, you know what, it's easier for me to multiply and then simplify, do that. We get the same answer. Okay? What I care about is that you get the correct answer. Rainy.
Whenever I have a negative fraction, I always write the fraction with the dash like this, so I don't get confused with the negative or the this.
So a lot of times it's hard because this was done digitally. And so we've got the negative sign right next to that fraction bar. When I write it, I write that negative sign up high, like that. So that way I know it's negative over the fraction. When you write it on the test, if you're writing it like this, and that negative gets too close to the fraction bar, I might not see that it's two separate lines. So get in the habit of making it obvious that it's negative over the fraction bar. So that way when I'm correcting 31 tests, I'm not squinting at it going, is there a little space in there or is there not a space in there? I'm just going to say, yeah, it looks like 1 bar to me, moving on. I'm going to mark it wrong. So get in the habit or doing it like this, or like Ramy just said, she does her fraction bar like that. So it's obvious that they are two separate lines. Henry.
Could you explain to us on the top of the multiplier, divide the -10 and then the 6 in parentheses? Up on the top. Yeah. If you scroll up.
So you're on the next page?
No, on the same page on the last thing we did, like the first thing we did.
That -3 and then parentheses -11.
Oh,
-11.
this one?
Yeah, and the one.
What does it mean when there's something right, a number right next to a parentheses? What operation is that, Dominic?
Multiplication.
So they don't have to put the symbol in. We just know that a number right next to the parentheses means we're multiplying. So we know we're multiplying -10 times 6. So any number right outside of a parentheses means we multiply it. What about the bottom?
It's the same thing. It's just both negatives.
Anytime there's a number outside of the parentheses, we know that it's multiplying.
What about like if you do?
Shh, Lucas.
What if you do? What if it is like? Well, do you have to parentheses if you say like 10x negative 10x equals 6, and like right at the bottom x equals 6. Like if they did that.
I don't understand what you're saying. Can you come up and write it for me so I can explain it? Shh.
Instead of that,
Yep.
it would be, they could do
Negative 10x equals 6.
So that's getting into variables. So we're not doing variables right now. But you're correct, but we're not doing variables. Okay. Okay. So when we talked about doing the reciprocal with dividing, remember you only flip the second fraction. That first fraction stays the same. We flip dividing to multiplying. We flip our second. I don't want the x. We don't want to confuse the variables. We flip our second fraction, then we can multiply across. First fraction stays the same. You flip divide to multiply, you flip the second fraction to its reciprocal. Then you multiply. Will.
On the normal one, but just like on the numbers, not fractions, you have to show your work.
Up here?
Yeah.
No. If you know your math facts, you don't have to show. Wait, no. I know that you know it. On the second page, it's word problems involving multiplying and dividing fractions. Because now, friends, we're still quiet and listening. Word problems are not easy peasy lemon squeezy. You have to really think through what the word problem information is telling you. They can be tricky because you have to decide which operation, am I multiplying or am I dividing? How do I set up the calculation? Because it matters which fraction comes first. If we are dividing, it most definitely matters which fraction comes first. You will find that some situations can be written using both multiplication and division, depending on how you set it up. So write the calculation for each situation. Write out what is the math you're going to do, then evaluate it. Keep in mind, key thing is to show your work. You don't just write an answer. Show your work. Let's look at our first word problem together. You and 3 friends are sharing a quart of milk. A quart is 32 ounces. You each get 1/4 of the quart. How many ounces do you each get? What math am I going to do? What is the calculation that I need to write down? Because we have to write the calculation. Damien?
division.
So what am I dividing?
You're dividing 32 and 1/4.
So if I'm dividing 32 by 1/4, by divide I need to flip to multiply, and I flip to my reciprocal. So do I want 32 times 4?
No.
Can I get 128 ounces when we only started with 32? Oh. It sounded right. We're dividing it into fours. Why does my answer not make sense? Why is that not logical? What do you think, Lauren? So I divided by a fourth. Olivia?
Because you don't have four quarts of milk. So, because if you multiply 32 by 4, because 32 is only 1 quart and you only have 1 quart. So if you multiply it, then you would have to have 4 quarts of milk.
Okay. So am I dividing out the milk or am I dividing amongst the friends?
Amongst the friends.
I'm dividing amongst my friends. There are 4 people. So if I want to divide, it's 32 divided by the 4 friends, which would give me 8 ounces per person. If I want to use the 1/4, I need to multiply 32 times 1/4. And that would give me 8 ounces. So you have to be very careful knowing what your calculation is. I don't want somebody to just look at it and say, oh, I have 32 ounces and there's 4 people, so my answer is 8. That's not writing the calculation and showing my work. You need to understand what it is you are multiplying or dividing. That's the point of these word problems, to really understand what we are multiplying and what we are dividing. So you have to think it through so you know what the correct calculation will be. Well,
And also, if you're doing 1/4, that's only one of the 4 friends, and it says how many ounces do each.
yes. Henry?
So one way you can obviously tell it was wrong was because that is way more than you have.
So logically, I would say, oof, I did not do the right calculation. Because if I only have 32 ounces, there's no way I can get 128. It logically does not make sense.
You have to have 4 quarts.
Olivia?
Well, I think also like it kind of messes you up because like the thing that you're supposed to be doing is dividing fractions. So that's kind of like I feel like that's kind of.
So it's multiplying or dividing. So we have to know that sometimes you can do both division and multiplication. Sometimes it's that fraction. Sometimes it's the reciprocal. So it's just really getting comfortable with the information they are giving you. So with that, we're going to say let's, if you're watching this at home, we hope you are well. We hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.